Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. On this episode, I'm excited to welcome on Rob Burley. Now, Rob is the founder of GP Traveler, which is a niche business that creates high-end Formula One travel experiences. And I actually connected with Rob at Kit's Craft and Commerce Conference back in June in Boise, Idaho. I was really intrigued by his story and the brand that he built. So, Rob, thank you so much for hopping on the episode here.
Hey, you're welcome. Hi, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick background, Rob, on kind of who you are and what you've built so far with GP Traveler.
Okay, well, to kind of summarize, when I left school at 16, I was interested in pursuing graphic design or a career in the travel industry. And my head told me to go with graphic design, which I did and studied for 2 years. And by the end of that time, I'd had enough and I just wanted to travel, see the world, but I had no money. So I went to work voluntarily in a travel agency here in my hometown in Sheffield in the UK that organised gap year travel for students. And I went from working there free of charge from 1 day a week just to get some experience because nobody would hire you without experience, to going in there voluntarily 5 days a week to the point where I was offered a full-time position. And during that time, I met someone who became a really good friend, and we both had this love for Formula One motor racing. And this was in the days before it was on Drive to Survive on Netflix. You know, it was it was on TV, you know, in the UK, but it wasn't anywhere near as popular as it is these days. And we started arranging our own trips to Formula One Grand Prix. And we go every year, and we said, well, wouldn't it be great if we did this for a living? And in about 2005, I left the business. We both went our own ways. And I had a brief spell where I had my own graphic design and printing business, decided it wasn't for me, and set up my own travel business. And made the massive mistake initially of thinking that I could be all things to everyone and thought I could be the next Expedia. But Formula One travel, and in particular sports travel as general, was always part of the plan. I wanted to do trips to all different sporting events, but Formula One was at the top of that list because it was my passion, and it just went from there, really. And that's the story in a nutshell.
That's good advice that you just gave there, trying to not attack everyone and kind of honing in on a niche and an ICP to actually go after on something that you have a lot of knowledge in, like Formula One. I know in the United States where I'm located, you're in the UK, so I would assume it's the same trajectory, but Formula One is becoming a huge, huge thing in the United States. I'm assuming it's similar over to the UK and everywhere else around the world as well.
So there's always been an interest in it, but now, I mean, certainly since the pandemic was over and people have started traveling again, and Drive to Survive on Netflix has, you know, it's probably in its 6th or 7th season now. And whereas I used to get all my inquiries were kind of people in their 50s upwards who got disposable income, now there's far more young people. There's a wider mix of male and female, and I mean, the ticket prices have quadrupled,
right?
Especially in the States. You definitely want to come to Europe for a race if you're in the States, and you know you'll save a lot of money. But yeah, the popularity has literally gone off the scale, which has brought its own challenges because now events sell out, which they didn't used to sell out at all before, and demand is higher, and a lot more companies are kind of jumping on the bandwagon.
Right.
But that just makes it even more critical that you know your stuff and that you position yourself as an expert in your particular niche.
For sure. So let's dive into marketing tactics now. This is a marketing podcast after all. So walk me through, Rob, I guess, what's the funnel look like for you? So how do you get those people in the door, and then how do you kind of work them through from top, middle to bottom of funnel and ultimately convert them?
Yep. So my entire business has been built through Google search ads.
Just traditional search ads, no
Yeah,
PMAX, display, nothing. Okay.
every single customer either came directly as a result of a search ad or a recommendation or referral from somebody who came through a Google search ad. I started that in about 2007, 2008. And when I had my design business, I used to go to a weekly breakfast networking club every week, Friday morning at 6 a.m. And one week, a visitor came along to look at the group and see if it was for him. And he was a Google marketer. He was a certified pay-per-click Google agency. And I remember him standing up in this networking meeting and he said something along the lines of, whatever you sell, you can find customers through Google. And that just stuck in my head. I tried it myself and it was terrifying because you put your credit card number in and you don't know if you'll ever see that money again. And thinking back now, it was probably laughable, the budget that I had. I was probably trying to, probably trying to just use the free voucher that Google gives you when you sign up and hoping that I get my first customer from that. But I was trying to think in preparing for this podcast what it was that made me carry on, and I just don't know because I must have gone for weeks, if not months, without seeing any direct results. And
Let
then
me
I
ask you this,
remember,
Rob. Just a quick question to kind of go on top of that. So you're relying on Google search ads, which I think we talked about this at the conference. That's actually my background and where I got started. I was running $1 million paid search ads for People Magazine and all these big titles at Meredith Corporation. So I understand the game quite a bit. But in addition to Google ads, were there any other marketing avenues that you went through? Was it SEO? I'm sure there were referrals coming in from people here and there. Was it video, social media? I guess, were there any other avenues besides just those straight search ads?
no, apart from my website just being on Google and potentially being found through organic search, it was just Google ads. I taught myself, I took an online course. And back in those days, it was I think it was far easier. There was
Oh, it's
far
way
more
easier back
control
then.
over
Yeah.
it. Um, I taught myself and just, I guess I kind of hoped for the best. But I remember the day that I realized that something was working, I took a phone call from a guy who ended up becoming a regular customer. But when I used to go to these networking meetings, you were encouraged to stand up and you had a minute to speak about your business. And you had to tell the group what your dream referral would look like. And this guy rang up and he listed off everything that would have been my dream Formula One referral: business class flights, a suite in a hotel, tickets for the paddock club. And I put the phone down to him, and I initially thought it was someone from the networking group who was making a prank call based on what my dream referral would be. But that eventually turned into a sale. It took a few weeks because he had to get the money in place because he was a business owner and he had to take the money out of the business.
Right.
It converted into a sale that was actually the sale itself, not what I made from it. The sale itself was probably more than my first house cost. And from that point forward, I completely changed my website. I got rid of anything that wasn't Formula One related. And I completely niched down on Formula One and never looked back from there.
Yeah, you definitely saw a pattern or an insight there, and you capitalized on it.
Yeah.
You know, one quick question I have, and this is relatable, I think, to other people running marketing in similar avenues. What's to stop Formula One from shutting you down from copyright, or there's got to be some sort of, I guess, potential legal issues there. How do you combat that?
Well, Formula One has in recent years set up its own travel arm, which has changed the way that the business works. But I position myself, and I am a travel agent at the end of the day. So I will go out and I will source for my customers what they need, and that can come. That could be using a tour operator who has a set product for that particular Grand Prix. It could be completely tailoring it around the client and building it myself. But I position myself as a travel agent. I'm not trying to position myself as someone who is a ticket agent. And I also have made a real effort to position myself as almost like a hybrid blogger stroke travel agent. So I put a lot of work into building the content around what I sell. I can help someone get to a destination. Even if I couldn't get the ticket, I could build stuff around that. With the online content, and what I plan to do is use more, revenue from digital products, affiliate sales of hotels. So I am always trying to position myself in a way that distances myself from the actual IP. And
Yeah.
I've got all the disclaimers on the website, that we're not officially
Right.
linked. And I do, very much position myself as the travel agent.
And that makes sense, right? So, I'm thinking about your Google Ads strategy. And while I think that's a great strategy, my mind always goes to kind of a more doomsday scenario with big tech. I've seen YouTube channels get shut down, TikTok, Instagram accounts, whatever. I guess, what is your strategy, Rob, if Google were to say, you're violating this trademark, you're doing something we don't like, and they just shut down your ads account, and now you're scrambling? I'm assuming you have an email list. You were at Kit's conference after all. What is your strategy, I guess, to mitigate the potential dangers of Google shutting down your ad account?
Yeah, well, from day one, and I think I can probably credit this to Amy Porterfield, but from day one, I always built an email list.
So you were on top of it right away.
Yeah, and I am forever grateful to whoever it was, whether it was Amy Porterfield or not, who instilled that in me. But also, I saw that as a bonus. So on top of, so when you advertise on Google, you obviously pay per click, and I saw getting that email address as almost like a side product of paying for that click. So I was getting a little bit more on top of the inquiry because that person was then going on my database. I have, at the moment, looking back over the last quarter, about a 40% return customer rate.
Wow.
I have met some of my customers in person. I've got get referrals. I email market twice a week now consistently, and it's not price points and offers. It's genuine content about Formula One travel. I'm trying to make it even more personal so that it's not corporate at all. So yeah, I've always been very aware of that. That it could be taken away overnight. However, one of the things that attracted me to advertising on Google was the fact that it's not what Seth Godin would call interruption marketing. You're actually putting your ads in front of people when they're in that buying mindset and when they're
Bottom of funnel.
when they're looking for what you have to sell. And even with that risk that you could have your account shut down, I would still rather pursue that than invest my time, energy, and money in a social media platform, which could have the same results. The accounts could still be shut down, but also you don't own that real estate, you don't own the data, and you really, really would be left with nothing if that was the case. So I still see Google as the best of the bunch. And I had a period where my Google account was actually shut down, and I took the opportunity to rebuild my website on a different domain, which is something I planned to do because the name of the business at the time didn't reflect what I did anymore. But it was probably about 2 weeks before I got to the decision of, right, I need to do something because this problem isn't going to get resolved anytime soon. Then the time it took to rebuild the website, So I probably went for about a month where I wasn't able to run ads at all. And in the end, the problem was resolved, and I got an email from Google saying, "No, yeah, sorry, it was a mistake. We shut down all these accounts when there was no need to. It's back up and running." But by that time, I'd already transitioned, so I have actually been in that situation and had that fear. So it's not just what if this happens. It has actually been a reality at one point.
Yeah, that's a really good story that you shared there, and I'm glad you learned those lessons. If you had to redo all of this all over again, or let's say someone potentially listening wants to start a similar niche travel business, travel agent business like you are, what would be one mistake where if you looked back and you made that mistake early on, that you're grateful you learned, that you would advise someone doing this to never make this mistake if they're getting into what you're doing?
Well, certainly trying to be all things to everyone.
Yeah.
I am a huge believer in focusing on one particular area that you can excel in, especially in travel, because if you if you could if you wanted to start a travel business, I would highly encourage you to just go to that destination if you haven't been there already, invest the money, and by the time you come back from that destination, you're already an expert compared to the person that wants to buy from you. Um, but I was thinking about this earlier, and I think the biggest mistake I just made in general when starting a business was I tried so hard to be this big faceless company. I had a New York phone number, a London phone number.
Trying to stay anonymous is what you're saying.
Yeah, and everything was written on the website as, we are this big company. It was very brochure style text. No geographical location. When people rang me, I'd talk, we rather than I. And looking back, that was just completely the wrong thing to do. There was no personalization, there was no personality behind it. Now, like I said earlier, I'm trying to transition to making the website look much more like a blog where there's photos of me, personal stories, um, and yeah, just trying to do everything I can to be the exact opposite of that. So yeah, if you're starting out, that personal touch, being yourself, having a real face and a real person behind the business, it's the difference between success and failure in my opinion.
Yeah, adding that personal brand into it is definitely everything. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about AI. I'm not sure how much you're leveraging AI. You know, I use AI a lot. I have an AI YouTube channel and whatnot. How do you see AI playing a role in what you're doing, I guess, to grow your business or to simplify things, save time? How are you leveraging AI at all right now?
I'm an adopter of AI. I've tried to keep it simple so far. I've avoided getting into multi-step automation so far. At the moment, I've kept it quite simple. Um, just using ChatGPT. I've tried Claude, but I keep going back to ChatGPT. But I'm almost forgetting how to type because I dictate everything into a GPT that I've set up to basically turn that dictation into an email in my tone of voice.
That's
Uh,
super efficient though. That's a good tip right there, right? To always dictate and say something, which it'll come off differently when you're speaking versus trying to type it. And I'll tell you this from my experience too, Rob, it saves a ton of time talking and dictating it versus, oh, I misspelled that. Let me go back and let me type
yeah.
this. Right. It takes so much time.
I think it's a huge time saver, but I also think it's a great way to get more of your personality across in an email,
Yeah, that too.
because that comes across, and you can quite easily get lost in your thoughts when you're typing, and especially if you're typing out an instruction to somebody, it's far easier. I've got automations now. I have to calculate travel packages made up of various different elements, whether it be accommodation, flights, tickets. I've got automations that can work out endless combinations, and that saves hours. Um, I I think one of the biggest game changers, and this relates back to email marketing and craft and commerce. It has AI has allowed me to be the email marketer that I wanted to be. I I see AI when it comes to content writing, just like you would have viewed the typewriter as or a keyboard or a pen rather than a quill. It's a tool to help you produce what you want to produce in a more efficient and better way. And AI has added that missing 10% to my writing. So now, as well as it being quicker, I am now so confident that I'm putting out quality content, because I don't know if I'm a perfectionist or if I've just was missing that extra 10%, but I would never be 100% happy with a piece of content. But now it's given me a whole new lease of life when it comes to creating content. And I've gone from ad hoc emailing to consistently doing one email every week, and now two emails every week for the last 2 or 3 months. And I am already up to, I think it's mid-October, and it's now July. So that has been the biggest game changer. I have tried a couple of AI agents, because the dream at the moment would be to have agents that can go out and search websites and find flight prices and hotel prices. And I have tried the premium version of ChatGPT, and I've also got an account with Manus, but they're just not there yet. They get stuck on tasks.
Takes
But
forever too.
yeah, but obviously, that's as bad as it will ever be. So I think that's just a waiting game. And my plan as well, for the last quarter of this year, is to start doing some outreach marketing on YouTube. So again, YouTube, it's a search engine, it's not social media, so that appeals to me. And
You
I've
should get going on YouTube. There's got to be a lot of search traffic for Formula One travel related
Well,
content.
yeah, but also because I'm now so far ahead with the content production for the email, I've now got that content can be
Yeah.
split into YouTube videos. And I've already been on 11 labs after speaking to you, and I know how to do the AI version of me. It's just a case of sitting down one Saturday and getting that set up. So yeah, that's for later this year. I think I will still dictate my voice and speak it through rather than use type to audio. But one of the things, so I work from home, and I don't have the space to set up a camera in a fixed position and just jump behind a desk and make a video. So I
Just do what
think,
you're doing right now, Rob. I mean, that's how I got my channel off the
yeah.
ground with
But you didn't see what went on before this. But yeah, having an AI avatar will just remove so many barriers to success with YouTube. I went in the Kit Studios when we were in Boise and recorded some content, and I thought, this is, if I can get into a place like this, on a regular basis and batch produce, but then having spoken to you and realizing that it's already possible to do that with AI, then that just makes the whole thing even easier. So AI is opening up a whole new marketing channel to me that was available to me, but just had too many barriers to entry for my personal circumstances, with it being just me doing the whole marketing.
Absolutely. We'll get you a Rob clone here and chat all about Formula One. If there was one big thing that, people could expect to see in your business going forward within the next 6 to 12 months, what are some big updates that maybe you want to share, things that you're working on behind the scenes that, might interest people that are interested in Formula One?
I am just continuing to try and be the absolute authority in this. My only real goal for the business from day one has to be the most trusted person or business in this space. I always thought that I don't care if somebody wants to go to a Grand Prix and can afford to do it tomorrow, or if it's a 10-year goal.
Top of mind.
I don't want them to look anywhere else. I've always wanted them, when the time comes, I've always wanted them to come to me straight away, because of the content that I've produced, the authority I've created, the trust I've created. So I am now just trying to flesh all that out, create even better trip planners and travel guides, find new products, just really the go-to place that absolutely succeeds anything else you would find online.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're trying to be that number one guy in the Formula One motorsports niche for sure. I completely relate to that in my niche.
Yeah, but they say, don't they, the road less traveled is if you can go that extra mile above and beyond anyone else, it's concentration. It's avoiding those shiny objects.
We could
Because
do a whole episode about avoiding
yeah,
shiny objects.
I have to now monitor what podcasts I listen to and what books I read, and fortunately, in recent times, I've not gone off track for more than a few weeks to a month at a time before I've realized, just a minute, this isn't what I do. But it's so easy. You've got to be so careful.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, this has been fun. I really appreciate your time. Where should people follow you online to learn more about what you're doing and the Formula One packages that you offer?
Yeah. My website is GP Traveller. That's GP for Grand Prix and Traveller spelt the British way with 2 L's. If you want to contact me about anything, there's a contact form in there. It comes straight through to my email, and I'd love to hear from people. Yeah, whether it's
Cool.
marketing related or whether it's something to do with Formula One.
Awesome. I'll leave all that stuff in the video description below. And by the way, Rob, what you're doing right now is you're building trust signals on Google in an AI powered world, being on podcasts, getting those backlinks from the podcast platform. So all of this stuff does help benefit to driving up your authority in that niche.
Yeah.
So Rob, thank you again for hopping on this episode. Thank you again to everyone for listening to this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. Be sure to tune in again next time.